Okay, picking up with engine identification part two. On the list of things we're going over, I had skipped over the A, if there's an A in the prefix, because some Lycoming engines that were built for aerobatic purposes, there was like an engine, it was an A, E, I, O. You'll notice you don't see the E on that list at all, because that's kind of a special thing that they did with those engines, indicating that they were a inverted oil system for doing that aerobatic. But there's some special things that are done to the aerobatic engine. You know, they put in solid crankshafts, and you see those airplanes flopping all through the air, and puts a lot of pressure on them, so they'll strengthen some things up like that. So that's what that A means. Now, not to confuse you, but prior to when this standardization of identifying the engines came along, prior to that, Continental especially had some engines, their A, so it was an A65. So that did not mean it was an A or aerobatic 65 cubic inch engine. It was actually their A series, and then the 65 represented the horsepower. So there was like I said, in the late 40s and early 50s, they had their A series, their C series, and their E series, of which they had the A, C, and E, and then the next thing number indicated the not cubic inches, but actual horsepower of the engine. So don't get confused if you come across those. Okay, then getting on to the geared nose section. So the purpose of having propeller gear reduction, it's important that the propeller tip speed does not exceed the speed of sound. And so the engine, we know that the faster we spin an engine, the more horsepower that engine can develop. But you still got the problem of the propeller speed. So they will use propeller gear reduction. So now, to kind of get us started, I'm going to step aside for a second here and read something out of. So you recall when you're back in general, you were asked, where would you look up for major repairs and alterations or preventive maintenance? And you guys all learned that's found in FAR, Part 43, Appendix, everybody thinking it? Anyway, it should be Appendix A, 43 Appendix A. And there's basically three things that constitute a major repair of an aircraft engine. And number one, separation or disassembly of a crankcase or crankshaft of a reciprocating engine equipped with an integral supercharger. So that's number one. And as we just saw it out there on the R2800, where separation of that crankcase, because it has an integral supercharger, would be constituted as a major repair. Separation or disassembly of a crankcase or crankshaft reciprocating engine equipped with other than spur-type propeller gear reduction. And the third thing, special repairs to structural engine components by welding, plating, metallizing, or other methods. Okay, so back to separation or disassembly of a crankcase or crankshaft of a reciprocating engine equipped with other than spur-type propeller gear reduction. Okay, so first of all, sliding back over here, first of all, let me show you propeller spur-type reduction. So separation or disassembly of an engine contains this type of propeller gear reduction. So here's your flange, which the propeller, of course, hooks to, and then you got the smaller gear over here where the engine's spinning quite a bit faster, hooked to the crankshaft. And so this is simple spur-type propeller gear reduction. So separation of a crankcase with this type would be just simply a minor situation, would not constitute a major repair. Coming back out here to the R2800, when you look at this guy up here in the front of this has planetary, so this is other than spur type, so this is a planetary gear reduction here, and separation of this crankcase because of that, along with the integral supercharger, this engine separation of the crankcase would constitute that major repair. All right, bring you back into the room here. Okay. And we already, of course, had covered the supercharging. So that's a supercharger for the purpose of going up above your sea level pressure, opposed. And then, of course, if it's an R in the prefix, you got a radial engine like the R2800 out there that we just took a look at. Okay. Oh, another note on that. So when we get to working on these engines, the word major is utilized when we're describing a type of overhaul. So on an engine, we can do a top overhaul versus a major overhaul. And so, for instance, when we start out in the shop on our engines, we're initially going to start off with completing a top overhaul. We're going for just the cylinders, the pistons, the rings, the valves, those things, and utilizing a top overhaul. But then for doing the whole engine, once you get the whole engine done, that's referred to as a major overhaul. Now, so one thing that tends to fool people, whenever we see that word major, we've been kind of trained, like a major repair, a major alteration. Then you got 337, inspection authorization, those kind of things that are needed to return that aircraft to service or engine to service. And in this case, that is not true. So what is the minimum license required in order to do a major overhaul would just simply be a power plant license. Okay, and then of course, as we mentioned, the 520 part of that up there, that is of course the piston displacement. So the amount of piston displacement, from bottom center to top center, times the number of cylinders, figure out that area, is the cubic inch size of the engine, and that's how they determine piston displacement. And I think that completes our discussion on engine identification. All righty, thank you.